tired, sluggish, brain fog, lack of focus, memory retention, depression, anxiety, skin inflammation, acne, psoriasis, autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, lupus, migraines, MS, thyroid problems, Hashimoto's disease. Your gut has been talking to you, but you haven't been listening. All right, guys, Scotty Banks here. Welcome to the first episode of Listen to Your Gut. Just a disclaimer really quick. The opening scene there, if you are experiencing any of those things, it doesn't necessarily mean what I'm about to go over and the information that we will cover in the upcoming episodes doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be cured or that those symptoms are a root cause to this. The likelihood of it is yes, but there's other reasons or other initial causes that could have led to those symptoms that were declared in the opening scene, right? So just throwing that out there. These are my beliefs based upon studies and education that I have learned throughout the years, and I wanted to share because it's not common knowledge to everyone. So hopefully this brings some value to you, or hopefully this brings some value to somebody in your life or somebody that you know. Please share it with them if you think this episode will provide that for them. So to kick things off, guys, our nation's got a hidden epidemic going on right now. We're in the place where we are taking our digestive system for granted, right? So for way too long as well. We're starving it of actual nutrition. We are overloading it with toxic sugars, with pesticides, with GMOs, with processed foods. The list goes on and on and on, and we've been doing it for far too long. And because we've been doing it for far too long, it has now created a slew of problems. Disease is higher than it's ever been. Obesity is higher than it's ever been. I think there's this false image floating around out there that what you eat only impacts your body image, right? And we should eat healthy in order to look good. Our goal to drop 10 pounds, our goal to drop 50 pounds, that becoming one of our goals sparks the initiative of, hey, I need to start eating better, I need to start eating cleaner. While all that is true, yes, there's a lot deeper of a reason as to why you should be eating clean to begin with that's not associated with a body image or a weight loss goal or anything like that. Very few people are actually aware that the food that they eat controls a lot more than what they look like. Right? We're at this constant tug of war between harmful bacteria and good bacteria inside of our gut, inside of our digestive tract, and it impacts everything inside the entire body, not just what you look like on the outside. I guess what I'm trying to point here is that the gut is not just a processing food center. The gut is the center of health itself. So taking that idea of that the gut is actually the center of health itself, we're going to be focused on all kinds of different things over the next coming episodes. The first one that we're actually going to talk about today is leaky gut syndrome. You may have heard this term before, maybe in the news, the media, whatever it may have been, whatever avenue that you heard this term before. It's a weird concept to actually think about, that your gut has sprung the leak, right? First, I should clarify so we're all on the same page going forward. Everybody has leaky gut at some point in time. By definition, the gut is actually permeable, right? It actually is a beneficial thing, which I will talk about later, for your gut to be permeable. The gut allows certain things to pass through the digestive tract to get into the bloodstream. However, I'm referring to when the lining of the intestinal tract is more permeable than it should be, right? And it starts to become inflamed, and then we have an immune response So when our digestive tract, when our intestinal lining is more permeable than it should be, this is when bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, toxins, undigested food particles, all of these items can pass through the gut lining into the bloodstream, and this is when an immune system response comes from, right? So these are unwanted substances in the bloodstream, and it goes into reaction mode. Our body goes into reaction mode, our immune system kicks in, which is a very efficient and very fast system. When this happens, our immune system is actually creating antibodies that's going to neutralize these invaders. So it's going to neutralize the bacteria, the toxins, the parasites, the unwanted food particles, whatever it may be that has slipped into the bloodstream. The immune system is going to fight that and take care of it. However, when the immune system is consistently called on a daily basis over and over and over again and never gets the opportunity to shut off, it's going to stay in the on position. When the immune system is going to stay in the on position, it's going to kick into overdrive mode, and that's when chronic conditions are going to start to appear. So before we dive into that immune response too much, it might be, let's backtrack, it might be more beneficial to understand how did leaky gut actually even occur to begin with. That's a great question. It could be a number of things. It could be a number of things added up continuously and consistently just to create the perfect storm. So those things could be antibiotics. Let's see, gluten. So continuous ingestion of gluten, excessive alcohol, high sugars, refined carbohydrates, consumption of GMOs, pesticides, the list goes on and on and on. Or it could be a combination of just all of these things consistently creating a very bad storm for our gut and for our health. So I'm going to take one of those things from what I just mentioned, and we're going to focus on that today. Today's episode is going to be on gluten and why I believe you should personally eliminate gluten from your diet. So to understand gluten a little better, we need to take one small step back and just look at wheat as a whole, right? If you rewind to 50 years ago, wheat was a completely different substance than what it is today. Inside at least the last 50 years, what we've done is we have hybridized the wheat, we've crossbred it with other grains and species that will allow higher returns and yields and profits. We have sprayed them with pesticides, we have chemical fertilizers, the list goes on and on and on. A result of all of this, it has completely changed the DNA makeup of wheat, right? I know there was a study done, and I have it right here, but the USDA pesticide data program did a study in 2004, and what it found was that 16 different pesticides were on wheat flour samples collected in that study. 16 different pesticides were on their wheat substances that they analyzed in that study. So we're definitely ingesting these on a day-to-day basis if you are consuming wheat, right? So understanding wheat, we can now look at gluten alone. Gluten is actually a protein that's found in wheat, barley, rye, and spelt. Our body actually lacks the correct enzymes to fully break down and digest gluten. So anytime that we are putting something into the gut that is undigestible and we don't have the correct enzymes to fully digest that, that puts the gut in a state to where malnutrition can happen. It can be a lot harder for the gut to absorb other nutrients and vitamins and minerals, and the list goes on and on and on. Our immune system can view this undigestible gluten as a foreign bacteria. And what it's going to do with the foreign bacteria is it's going to cause eventually collateral damage to the gut lining. How does it cause this damage to the gut lining? Let's look at that in a little bit more detail, right? So in 2000, the University of Maryland actually did a study, and this was probably at one point in time, in the future, could be a Nobel Peace Prize because of what they found here. And they were able to isolate a protein called zonulin. Zonulin is the only substance that is capable of opening and closing the tight junctions that's inside your gut, right? So your lining of the gut is permeable, like we mentioned at the beginning of this, Zonulin is the only protein out there that can actually open and close those tight junctions. There are two things that trigger zonulin. Those two things are bacteria in the gut and gluten. Now don't view zonulin as a bad protein here, because zonulin actually used to be a very, very vital part of our normal bodily response to something. Zonulin still is a normal response to our body's defense mechanism. For example, if you encounter salmonella, right? What's going to happen is that bacteria, your body's going to recognize that you have bacteria in the gut, unwanted, unhealthy bacteria. Zonulin is going to get released, and then that is going to allow that salmonella, that bacteria, to go through the gut lining into the bloodstream, and your immune system is actually going to be able to develop the antibodies to correctly attack and fight off that bacteria. So it's an actual good response. However, with as much as we consume gluten nowadays, zonulin is consistently getting released. It's getting released every time, depending on how frequently you're eating that gluten. What used to be a normal response to harmful bacteria in the gut is now morphed into a never-ending cascade. This never-ending cascade is now causing our body to be chronically vulnerable, chronically inflamed, and it's leading to a slew of health problems. This increase of gluten in our food supply, especially on a day-to-day basis or on a very, very, very frequent basis, is now consistently triggering zonulin, right? The problem with consistently triggering zonulin is we are having our tight wall junctions inside our gut lining to consistently stay open and open and open and open. This is allowing things that we don't want into our blood. So the increase in gluten in our food supply is actually causing zonulin release to happen on a very frequent basis, right? If you're consuming gluten every single day, then your body is releasing that protein zonulin, which means your gut lining is opening very, very frequently. When this is happening, bacteria, unwanted food substances, fungi, parasites, anything that we're ingesting is allowed to go into the bloodstream. Your immune system is going to react to this. It's going to do its absolute best to develop some antibodies to fight off all of that. But eventually, after this consistent response and ingestion of gluten, then your body's going to go into, your immune system is going to go into almost like a hyperdrive state, to where it's going to become so efficient that it's just going to start firing its antibodies at everything in sight. And then this is when every single tissue in the body could be impacted. Your skin could be impacted, your heart could be impacted, your lungs could be impacted, your thyroid could be impacted, everything could be impacted. When this happens, your immune system is actually, it's friendly fire, right? Take the thyroid, for example. Now you're friendly firing at the thyroid. You're throwing antibodies at it. When this happens, you're actually damaging and killing off cells after cells after cells of the thyroid. Now, what happens to damaged cells? They die off, and then our immune system is going to get called in again to sweep out those damaged and dead cells, right? So, when this happens, now your body is going to create another cleanup crew, which are special anti-inflammatory antibodies that are responsible for sweeping out these dead cells that our immune system actually killed off because it was in hyperdrive mode, right? When this happens, our immune system is going to, once again, these anti-inflammatory antibodies are going to morph, and they're going to get very efficient, and then they're going to start actually cleaning away normal and healthy functioning cells. So take that thyroid, for example. What started off as our immune system actually just damaging and killing certain cells on the thyroid, then our cleanup crew came in to get those cells unwanted, but because there's so many of them, then that antibody actually morphed into attacking healthy cells. And before you know it, you have now developed a very, very serious thyroid issue, and it was all stemming from the gut initially. It is believed that gluten is a key reason for our nation's autoimmune crisis that's going on right now, with clear documented links, scientific evidence of it, links to disease of type 1 diabetes, Crohn's disease, thyroid issues, acne, skin rashes, almost everything, depression, anxiety, almost every single symptom or thing that you are feeling, gluten has a tie to because of this zonulin response of opening up the gut and allowing unwanted foreign substances in the body, and our immune system is starting to attack itself. So, which is why I believe every single person should go on a gluten-free diet. Thank you for taking the time out to watch this. Hopefully you learned a little something. Hopefully it brought a little bit of value. Hopefully a little more educated than what you were a few minutes ago. So I definitely appreciate you watching. These will only continue to get better, I hope. This is my first one that I've ever done, so we'll see what the what the next episodes to come look like. So see you in the next one.